Hi, this video is a visual demonstration on how to use Fribbels Epic 7 Gear Optimizer. Since it's a tutorial on how to use it, I'm going to assume you were able to follow the basic instructions to download the optimizer and have set your emulator up to be able to screenshot pictures in the correct dimensions. In the folder you've extracted the optimizer to, make a folder called screenshots. We'll come back to this later. After the initial setup, we need to import gear to the optimizer. To do this, go into your heroes. It doesn't matter which hero you pick, but I'll demonstrate on a random 2-star so that it's less visually cluttered. Click Manage Equipment and filter your gear by Max Enhance. Click on the first piece of gear and screenshot it with the hotkey for your emulator. For me, since I'm using LD Player, it's Ctrl 0. If this is your first time, I recommend that you screenshot only a few pieces of gear of different levels and rarities to test if the optimizer recognizes your screenshots properly. If it doesn't, you probably didn't set the emulator's resolution properly. This is so you don't waste your time if you finish screenshotting all your gear and for whatever reason the optimizer doesn't recognize your screenshots. Find where your screenshots are saved by your emulator. For me, it's in Documents, Schwanze, Pictures, Screenshots. Move these pictures into the screenshots folder we created earlier in the optimizers folder. Now we can open the optimizer for the first time. Go straight to the Importer tab and locate the screenshots folder we made. Again, we'll be testing if the optimizer is recognizing the gear we've screenshotted. After that's done, press export gear.txt. You can save it to its default location, press append data and select the gear.txt. Now go into the gear tab to see if your gear's stats are correct. At this point you can go back and screenshot all your gear you want to optimize and repeat the process of exporting the gear.txt file. A personal tip is to only screenshot gear that is plus 15. Make sure to clear the contents of the screenshots folder so you don't end up with duplicate gear. The next thing to do is add the heroes you want to optimize. I personally have a notepad file of all my heroes in order of gear priority. This is all up to your preference, but I add heroes into the optimizer based on their priority just because it's easier to optimize by going down the list. So for me, the highest priority I have is Cerise, Tempest-Surin, and SSB. And I'll put ML Crow in as well for demonstration. You can then add bonus stats, which include artifact stats and imprints. These will be accounted for in the calculation. So let's try to optimize my heroes. Click on the optimizer and this page may look really overwhelming, but it's actually quite straightforward. So the first thing you should do is turn on force mode. It doesn't affect you negatively having it on, but it prevents you from using the force function if you have it off. So that's here. We'll go to it left to right. These settings you can leave as is for now. So for a hero like Cerise, we know that we want her as fast as possible. I know my gear can make it past 250, but I don't know how high she can actually get, so we'll just leave it like that. I also want her to have at least 100 effectiveness. The next thing is the substat priority. We can use this to filter out our gear, so pay attention to this number here, the permutations. If I drop this, the number decreases. So all this is doing is just filtering out gear that doesn't have the substat that you're prioritizing. So for example, for Cerise, you would want, speed out of 3, effectiveness out of 2. So all this does is just it filters out all the other stats and tries to prioritize these stats when giving you the results. For this example, I'm not going to use this function, and I'm just going to use these functions. So the main stat and the set. We know that Cerise is going to be on speed bits, obviously, and speed set. I don't really need a secondary set for now, but you can use this for other heroes. So now we get to the force function, which is a really good feature for characters that you want really fast. So for Cerise, to get to 250 plus speed, your speed gear has to be pretty good. So for me, I'm just going to test 6. What this means is that every piece of gear that the optimizer considers has at least 6 speed in its stats, whether it be the substat or the main stat. So obviously your speed boots are going to be 45 or 40 unreforged. That means all the other pieces is going to have at least 6 speed in its substats. So after left clicking out of that, you can see our permutations has dropped by a lot. This just helps with speed, and if your computer can't really handle a lot of mathematical functions, then dropping this as much as you can will really help. So now we're going to press start. So what you saw was sped up footage. On my end, that actually took quite a while because I could have forced a speed stat that was much higher. So I'll just click the first result, and you can see that the speed here is all higher than 6, or at least 6, right? What you can do is filter by top, like highest to lowest. So we're just going to click on speed, and now I can see that Mr. Reese's highest speed with 100 effectiveness is 279. If I took away this filter, then obviously I think Mr. Reese could get higher speed, but if Mr. Reese is just fast and doesn't have effectiveness, she's not going to be too useful. So I'm quite happy with this for now. We'll just press equip, and now you can see that Mr. Reese has this gear, and you can just go into your game and equip your Cerise with the corresponding gear. So let's move on to T-Surin. I'm going to go into the optimizer again, go to T-Surin. You can reset your settings, which clears everything. Put force mode back on, and for T-Surin, let's do 85% crit rate, sorry. I'm not sure how strong my T-Surin can get, so I'm just going to put some really low attack stats. I know for a fact I can make T-Surin crit and lifesteal. 4-piece first, so lifesteal, crit, and I know I can get crit damage, neck on her, attack percent ring. For boots, I'm not sure if I can get speed or attack, so I'm just going to put both of them in. I'm not going to use force for this one, because the permutations are quite low already, and I'm not sure which stat I want to, force. So let's start. So that was really quick, right? So my main focus on T-Surin was damage, so filtering by speed is not too important for me. Let's click on MC damage, which just means max crit damage. So that's the strongest T-Surin the optimizer could produce. If you click on damage, you can see that the crit rate is 99. So damage is just average damage. You can see max crit damage is 91%. So I just noticed that my T-Surin is at 150 speed. So that's actually really low. I want her to be at least 180. So what you can do is just type 180 into the filter and click filter. Don't click start, because that's just going to run the optimizer again. It's not going to be that big of an issue for this particular optimization, because I didn't have a lot of permutations to begin with. But if you've already optimized something like, I'll show you next, the Seaside Bologna, that has a lot of combinations, you don't want to start it again if you've waited 10 minutes to get the first batch of results. So I'm just going to press filter, and now we've got a 180 speed T-Surin with the highest crit damage possible. Or if you want to get higher crit rate, you can do it like that. So I don't really care, so I'm just going to put her like that. And this is already accounting for her self imprint and a maxed Moonlight Dream Blade. Cool, let's move on to Seaside Bologna. So reset. As I said, force mode is really useful for speedy heroes, turn 1 contenders, so I don't really actually use it that much outside of optimizing someone like Cerise, so I guess that's why it's default to disabled. So it's not too important here. For my SSB, I have really stringent benchmarks for her, so I want her to be at least, these kind of DPS stats. And I know that she can take an immunity and 2 pieces of crit, but let's say I didn't know that I had to gear for 2 more crit sets. So we'll just run immunity 1. And for neck, I'm not sure what neck she runs, but let's put everything that a bruiser would want. And I know that for a fact that I don't want a fast SSB, so I'm not going to even put speed boots on. And you can see that there are tons of combinations. So what you can do is use the subset priority. So I'm going to turn it down to around 70. We know we want crit damage. We'll put everything at 2. Let's put everything at 2. And crit rate, about a 1, right? We don't want any speed, so let's just put that at -1. We don't want any of these. Effectiveness, we'll leave that 0. All right. So the permutations have dropped. Let's see what results we get. So as you can see, when the filters are quite broad, it can take really long. I've left the clock running in the bottom right to show you guys how long it's taking, but obviously you can use the substat priority function, turn that down a bit. If you had a better idea of what sets you can run on your character, you can also put that in, and obviously it will drop the permutations down. But as I said, we're pretending that I don't know what gear my SSB can run. I know for a fact that she wants immunity, but nothing else. So this is just giving the optimizer a chance to run every single combination with immunity. You know, it could be speed immunity, crit immunity, double crit immunity. It's just letting the optimizer do its thing. Okay, finally. I'm not sure how long that took because I went up and got a drink, but you can see that it does take a while. This is not the fault of the optimizer. Its entire job is to search all these results, but it's up to you to kind of narrow it down to make the optimizer's job more easy. So I have it on max crit damage, and I still want it on that because I want to get as strong of an SSB as possible. And let's check out my SSB. She has 15k health, 1400 defense, and obviously I optimized for 14k. So all we can do is change it to 15k, and again, instead of pressing start, again, don't press that because you're gonna have to wait again. Press filter, and we can see the results now more clearly. Which one is most similar? All quite different, but you can see that the stats are pretty good. 283 crit damage, 3.5k, so the difference between the first and second result. Let me just get this off to not distract. You know, the math, they multiply it and check out what the max crit damage is. So I'll just take the first build and be done with that. Alright, our final hero is Last Rider Crow. So for me, I know for a fact that his speed, immunity, and I want him to be at least 230 speed, 20k HP, 1000 defense. So obviously the defense is quite low. We can tweak that around as we optimize, right? So health, defense, because again we don't know which neck has the better stats. Health, defense, speed boots, and the permutations are quite low, so this shouldn't take too long. Yep, and it's done. So we can filter by effective HP per speed to try and get as fast as possible with the highest HP. Effective HP, which accounts for defense as well. So you can see that 20k HP, 2100 defense. We know that ML Craft scales off HP, so let's bump that up to 22,000. Filter, and we still have it filtered by effective HP, so you know this is still quite good. I'm still not too happy with that, so let's bump it up to 24k. And we've lost a lot of defense, but you can continue to play with this as long as you want. So just do that, all right? And I'll show you guys what these features are for. So let's say we have a Bazaar, right? And I want him to be a turn 1, and I'm not really using Cerise anymore. I'm putting her in the waiting room. So what you can do is turn on. Let's reset first. Turn on equipped items, because obviously Cerise still has the gear. You can unequip it, but then this function wouldn't work, right? So same thing as before. Speed. We want speed set, and let's filter by 10. Yeah. So force mode is not on, so you can see that because it's not on, we still have 40 billion permutations. If I turn it on, 17 million, right? And that should should not take long as well. And we don't really care about effectiveness if you're running offense Bazaar because of target hell, right? So 267, don't laugh at my Bazaar, it's quite slow, but you can see that it's taking some of ML Crow's gear, it's taking some of Cerise's gear. If you didn't want it to take ML Crow's gear, you can press lock items, right? And let's run it again. 267, right? It's still 267, but you can see that it's not taking any of Last Rider Crow's gear. It's taking Surin's gear, but again you can lock it. And obviously if you tick locked items, that would put the Last Rider Crow permutations back in. Yeah. At least one level 85. Let's run that. So this is just for if you want to run gear that can be reforged. So you can see that these boots are reforgeable. Yeah. So that's why this is in the results. This is quite good because speed contenders, you might have all the perfect gear, but the boots might not be reforged. And because of that, if this wasn't here, then you would have a 262 speed Bazaar. So as you can see, it's 267 now because I reforged the boots. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but yeah, this optimizer has a predict function, right? So it's predicting how those bits were reforged. Apparently they're quite accurate. I haven't really tested this because this function literally came out today, or yesterday, but yeah, seems to work quite well. So just to finish up, what you want to do is save your data. I've named the test and I put it here, but I think it's better if you make a new folder called builds or whatever, and just save your file. And yeah, finally, if you want to add more gear, what I do is when I'm that's weird. When I'm crafting gear or upgrading within gear, I go into my inventory, go recent. For example, if I plus 15 this, I'll add new item and put it all in, and it would update this table. That's pretty much it for the gear optimizer. I think it's quite straightforward. You should be able to kind of figure it out if you play around with it. Just save your data and you can mess around and load it back up if something goes wrong or you're not happy with your stats. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and thanks to Fribbels for making such a great optimizer.